Okay, I had a dilemma as to what should be the next lecture. In the area of mysticism, there's a lot of interesting topics, fascinating, and we could be here for many, many hours just talking about all these interesting and beautiful and fascinating areas of mysticism. But I decided now, especially before the Pesach holiday, to do something that a little bit relates to the holiday, as well as something that I believe is very important for every one of us to know. In other words, as much as we're excited or fascinated by mysticism, people forget that all of this knowledge, all of this information may not really help that much unless one makes a decision that he really wants to be a more spiritual person. And the bigger question, therefore, is, how do I do that? So I decided to cover the following topic: how to cross the bridge between the physical and spiritual worlds. How does one do it? Again, we're fascinated and very interested, perhaps, in some of the topics, but what are we going to do with it? How is it going to help us? What do we need to cross the bridge from the physical to the spiritual world? Many, many cultures had this idea, this legend that they believed in, that there's something called the fountain of youth. Have you heard of that? That there's some fountain, some miraculous fountain somewhere, and a Spanish conquistador, a Spanish general who came to this part of the world, thought that it was in Florida. This fountain of youth, he was told, where you bathe and you become young again. In other words, they thought that perhaps there is somewhere in this world such a fountain that will make sure that you never become old and perhaps never die. Obviously, this is a legend, a myth. I don't know of such a fountain. But why were they so curious about it? Why were they interested in looking for something like that? Obviously, man has been always bothered by the fact that he has no control over death. He has no control over aging. We all age. And if possible, he would love to continue to enjoy this physical world and all the pleasures that it offers. The problem with this is that this was man's most important focus, and as a result of that, he did not really investigate if there's an afterlife. Perhaps there's something better than this world. Perhaps there is a place where he can have really peace of mind and tranquility and enjoyment, something that is much more powerful than any enjoyment that he can imagine in this world. He never gave too much thought to this. But we know, those of us who are familiar with the spiritual realm, the afterlife, we know what it's about. I mean, we don't know all the details of what it looks like, but we have a very clear tradition that there's no comparison. 1 minute, the rabbis tell us, 1 moment in that spiritual world is more special than all the pleasures that one can imagine having in this world. After all, that is a world of eternity. But for some reason, when it comes to spirituality, human beings have a problem, and I call this problem nearsightedness. They're nearsighted. They can't see well. And we can't blame them. In order to see the spiritual, you need special glasses. The average human being is nearsighted. He cannot see. And as a result of him not being able to see the spiritual, he misses out a lot of detail. He doesn't have the same clarity as if he were to wear these glasses. There's so much out there that he does not even appreciate because he's not even aware that it exists. Imagine somebody that needed regular glasses and did not wear them. Finally, one day, his wife convinced him, his friends convinced him, he convinced himself, and he got himself a good pair of glasses. Wow, he says, all these years I couldn't see all these colors, I couldn't see all these details. Now I recognize people from a distance. It's a whole different world. What a disfavor he did to himself by just being either stubborn or ignoring what people were telling him. Go get yourself a pair of glasses. You have no idea what you're missing. The most intelligent people, whether today or in the past, as intelligent as they may be, as knowledgeable as they were never really cognizant, were never really aware of the real enemy. What stands in the way? What keeps them from attempting to be better people, more spiritual, closer to God? What is it? What is that enemy? It's an enemy after all. Someone that does not want them to enjoy that which is so special. Who is that enemy? And you'll be surprised, it's the enemy within that we all have, and we don't even realize it. And that enemy is discussed in the very beginning of the Torah, in Parashat Bereshit, the story of Genesis. We are introduced to this enemy. And who is this enemy?
Satan.
They call him all kinds of names. Satan, Yetzirah, the evil inclination. But let's not give him a name right now. Let's just describe him. The description of this enemy is called rebellion against God. Rebellion against that which is spiritual. All I want to believe and all I want to experience is physical. And you see that from the very beginning. From the very beginning, the Torah tells us this is the humanity's biggest problem. They want to focus on the physical and not on the spiritual. Anything that smells of divine or spiritual, they don't want it. They don't want to hear about it. They will rebel against it. And you see it throughout history. Man is not always interested in doing what God's will is, what he wants. He's selfish. His concept, therefore, of what's important and what is a priority is very different than what God had in mind for him. And therefore, he sometimes loses himself, gets carried away, and before he knows it, his time is up, he has to leave. Why does it happen like that? Why is it that the power of evil, or the power of the evil inclination, I should say, why does it appear that they're more powerful than that which is divine and spiritual? After all, we have a neshama, we have a soul. That soul is divine. Shouldn't the soul be more powerful than the physical body? Shouldn't that which is spiritual be more enticing, more attractive to us? Why is it that the human being is pulled more towards the physical than the spiritual? I think a beautiful mashal, a beautiful parable to this is in the world of sports. For those of you who have seen a soccer match or basketball or even baseball, there's a concept of a home team. You know what a home team is? I think here they have the Lakers. Mm-hmm. Are they still playing? Yeah. I don't know. I don't follow anymore. Do they have an advantage over a team coming from the outside? Usually they say a home team has an advantage. All the fans. Right? Doesn't always help. But there is some advantage there to a home team. Well, guess what? This physical world is a home team for the goof, for the body. This is not the home team of the soul. So who has the advantage? The body. The physical body is at home. This is his home. And he has a lot of fans in this world. A lot of things that will draw his attention. And because of that, it's very simple. That the physical body is usually at a better position, at a stronger position. It does not mean, however, that it is stronger. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair, completely fair. The soul is actually more powerful. What I mean by more powerful, it does have the ability to overcome, to defeat. That's what I mean by more powerful. In other words, it's not necessarily stronger. They're both equal forces, but it does have tremendous strength, tremendous potential of defeating the evil inclination. How does one do that? What does it need? So some of you may be familiar with the term escape velocity. Perhaps most of you have never heard of it, but I'm sure some of you have. Escape velocity. What's escape velocity? In order for a rocket to travel in the distance in space, it needs tremendous power to escape the gravitational pull of the Earth. There's something called gravity. In order for the rocket to go far away from Earth and not fall back, it needs tremendous power. Otherwise, you send something up, eventually, at some point, it will fall back down. That's what gravity is all about. In order to escape this gravitational pull and be able to travel infinitely into space, to get away to the point where you don't fall back, you need something called escape velocity, which is approximately 25,000 miles per hour. It all depends from where they launched the rocket, from which part of Earth. They succeeded, obviously, in being able to get away from the gravitational pull of the Earth. How did they succeed? How did they know that they need something that is powerful to get away from planet Earth? Anybody know? How did they figure it out? Because they had an interest in reaching space. They had a desire, a strong desire to reach the moon, to go to Mars, to go to Jupiter. And therefore they figured out, they had to calculate, in order to accomplish this, they needed some powerful rocket. And you know, when you go to the moon, you also have to figure a way how to get back. It's not just enough that you get there, you need enough fuel, enough power to be able to get back to Earth. That's why it's not so simple. It's expensive. But they figured it out because they had an interest, they had a desire to get there. The first step for man to become more spiritual is to have a desire. You want to be able to escape the evil inclination, you need another kind of escape velocity, a spiritual escape velocity, to be able to escape him. Otherwise, you'll be his prisoner forever. You have to have a will. If we don't have an interest in that, then why would somebody think of it? Why should he try hard to get away from him? He's comfortable. He likes to eat. He likes to enjoy himself, travel, vacation, luxuries. Why not? What's stopping him? In order to want the opposite, to get away from all of that, you need to have an interest. Not everybody has that interest. What's interesting is that animals don't like to be in a cage. Even though you may have gone to the zoo and you think they're calm and they're happy because they're fed, they're not really happy. I didn't ask them, by the way, but I know it. I know if you study a little bit zoology and you have a little bit of experience with animals, you will see that the vast majority of them, except perhaps for domesticated animals, they would rather be free. They would rather be free on their own. A lion would rather be free, not in a zoo, not in a cage. And I think it's common sense. Do you know that people who have been in jail many a times have tried to escape? They dug tunnels underneath. Nobody wants to be in a cage. No one wants to be behind bars. Most people don't. So here, the human being is in a form of a cage. And somehow he doesn't realize it, and somehow he doesn't make an effort to escape. He's just happy the way he is. It's strange. How is this connected to Pesach, you may ask? Anybody know? How is this connected to the holiday that's coming?
They got saved.
Pesach is about the holiday of freedom. To be bnei chori, not to be slaves. So I think it's perfect timing, that we're talking about freeing ourselves from bondage. So when it comes to freedom, there is a battle. What's the battle? The soul wants to be free from the physical body. The soul doesn't feel so comfortable in this cage. The problem is, the body wants to free itself from the soul too. The body tells the soul, oh, stop it, leave me alone. I don't want to go to another class. Don't tell me about spirituality. I'm very happy and comfortable the way I am. It doesn't want to be bothered by the conscience, by any guilty feelings either. What's the conscience? Something which is spiritual, from the neshama. So there's a constant battle. Each one wants to become free of the other. And as a result of that, the physical body will try whatever it can to block the way of the soul from being guided by it. It's a very, very difficult battle. You want to know how difficult? How many times have you heard of someone who's very, very sick, who was told to take medication, and he knew this medication may be good for him, but he refused to take it? Have you heard of people like that? Take this medication. He's told by everyone, this is good for you, this will save your life, you'll feel better. They try anything they can to convince him, nothing helps. He refuses to take it. Now, for those of you who have studied psychology, you for sure heard of the saying, you can only bring a horse close to water, but you can't force him to drink. So the most you can do is speak to him, bring him close to the water, but whether he drinks or not is up to him. Why should he refuse? Everybody's telling him this is good for you, this could save your life. Why not try it? Isn't it interesting that some people will refuse? What's going on? The biggest problem, or the biggest hurdle, is in changing his ratzon, changing his will. He's obstinate. He has his own will. His will is not what people's will is. His doctor's will is not his will. In other words, the first thing that has to change in order for him to agree to take the medicine is for him to change his will. The will is something very powerful. If he does not want it, nothing will help. Nothing in the world will succeed in changing his mind. He doesn't want. If he says, I don't want, what are you going to do? So we have to somehow look for a way to change his will. How do you change someone's will? At some point, you have to get him to distinguish between that which is pure and that which is impure, that which is holy and that which is secular, that which is purposeful, that serves the ultimate purpose of life, and that which is a waste of time. Somehow we have to get him to distinguish between right and wrong, somehow, between good and bad. Without glasses, it may be very, very blurry. Who told you this is good? Who told you this is bad? Prove it to me. You know, a lot of people are looking for evidence. Show me, prove it to me. Physical evidence. Scientists, if you don't show them black and white, who says there's spirituality? Prove it to me. It's not easy. And I'm going to tell you why it's not easy to prove in a moment. But you see, the refusal is something that a lot of people have. I gave you an example which is a little bit more extreme of someone who's sick. You have nothing to lose. Try, but it's the same idea. The ratzon, the will, is to refuse. I don't want to, I don't agree, for whatever reason. So we have to somehow find a way to show him there's a difference between this and that. There's a real difference. We have to get him to wear those glasses so he can see the difference. As long as he doesn't wear those special glasses, as long as he doesn't see the difference, it's going to be very, very tough for him to change his mind. The reason for that, the reason why it's so tough for him, is because the Kabbalah explains that in this world that Hashem created, there's a lot of klipot. Klipot in English is translated husks or shells. You know, a peanut has a husk, has a shell. You don't eat the shell, you eat the fruit. Fruits have a peel. Everything in this world has a cover to protect it. The problem with this cover is that sometimes it conceals. It protects, but it also conceals what's inside. With the fruit, we already know, somehow we were taught. Crack it open and get to the fruit. Peel it and eat it. banana, right? You're going to peel it, you're going to eat it. So we know. This idea of peeling away the klipot, removing them, is not something that is taught when it comes to spirituality. There's a lot of spirituality. This is a spiritual world as well. But you have to remove the klipot. You have to remove the shells, impure shells that are obstructing the view. And so long as you don't remove those impure shells, you're not going to see. You're not going to be able to see that the real fruit, the most important part, is not the shell, it's the inside. And those klipot, what they're doing is they're obstructing our view. They're concealing the godliness, the divinity that exists in this world. As a result of all this concealment, guess what happens? There's a very powerful force in every human being called passion. In Farsi, ishq. Right? As a result of this concealment, this passion is being misused. It's going towards that which is immoral. Prostitution. Passion is going into the wrong areas. Passion is important, it's powerful. Somebody has passion, there's a lot he can do. Yeah, but where is he going to invest that passion? In that which is immoral, wrong, physical? Or is he going to take that passion and use it in that which is divine and spiritual? Because he was given this force, this incredible force that can be very beneficial in life if it's used properly. But because of all this concealment, this passion is being misguided and used for the wrong things. How many times people get married and get divorced? Why are they getting divorced? Because they got married as a result of their passion for someone. It wasn't real love for them. It wasn't that they want to take care of them, that they want to build a home together, that they want to do for each other. It wasn't for the real reasons of what marriage is supposed to be. Share the life with the one you care about the most. And show them that you care about them. No. They care about themselves. They have an interest. They like what they see. It could be the beauty, it could be the money. They're infatuated with the wrong things, with that which is external, with the shell, not with the inside, the real beauty of the human being, their soul. So obviously, if something goes wrong, they can easily go to and get a divorce. A spiritual connection is a strong connection because it's a real connection. It's real. The other one is false. It's fake. It's deceiving. You're looking at the shell. You're not looking at the real human being. All of this passion that could be used in the right way is being used in the wrong way. Why? Because it's concealed. The spirituality is concealed. We're not blaming yet the individual. We're explaining what is happening in the real world. There's a lot of concealment because of the klipot, the impure shells out there. They don't let us see what is real. And it's hard for us to therefore distinguish between that which is real and that which is fake, which is unimportant. Therefore, what will happen? All of this passion and all of this power that we have in us to become connected to someone is being used to be connected to the wrong things. And what is therefore lacking is that we don't have any room, time, or power for dvekut, as it's called in the Kabbalah, to attach ourselves, or to cling, or to cleave to that which is holy. Oh, we don't have any more time for this. I'm so busy with this, and I just don't have the energy for this, and the stamina, or the interest. Yeah, because you've given all of that towards something else. Imagine a man that gives all his attention, time, to another woman, not his wife. Does he have the time now and the ability to give the same or more attention to his wife? But this is your soul. This is part of you. You're giving it away? You can't have them both, not as easily, at least. You have to give up something. But obviously, without those special glasses, you can't tell the difference. And even if you could tell a little bit the difference, he doesn't have the interest. Because of what we said earlier, the home team has a little bit of an advantage. So as a result of all this concealment, the human brain, the moch, which is really the captain of the ship, the one that makes all the decisions, is confused. He won't necessarily admit that he's confused, but he really is confused. He's torn. That brain, as smart as he may be, is contaminated. It could be filthy, not just contaminated, with all kinds of junk. And what can we expect from something like that? What can we expect from an individual whose brain cannot focus properly? It's contaminated. So much distraction happening in his life that he doesn't have time to focus properly. And this is without glasses. In other words, even if he had glasses, it's not so simple. You think people who know the truth will never make a mistake, will never be tempted, will never fall? No, they fall too. Temptation is strong. Confusion, being drawn. This is the home team. So we have to look for a way to clean that brain. How do you clean the brain? Have you ever listened to a radio and moved the channels around and you hear all this static, all this noise? And this noise finally stops when you get the right channel. In between channels, there's a lot of noise because you're not at the right station. You're not at the right channel. So you're hearing buzzing. It's a conflict of radio waves from all over the place. You have to move it a little bit more, you have to adjust it until you finally reach the right one where everything sounds clear. That's exactly what is happening in the brain. There's a lot of buzzing, there's a lot of confusion. It's not focused properly on the right channel. And as a result of that, it cannot hear well, it cannot see well, it cannot focus. Where's all that buzzing coming from? Where's all that noise coming from? Anybody want to guess? One of the places where the buzzing is coming from is TV, television, movies. All that distraction, wasted time, and especially in the last at least 30 years, tremendous amount of violence and pornography in TVs and movies. No one should underestimate the power of this. Everybody knows that advertisement is powerful. And what is a TV show? It's a very powerful piece of advertisement. It's entertaining. You don't have to do anything. You just sit back and have popcorn or a beer and enjoy. And people don't realize that not only are they killing the time, precious time is limited here, but it's doing something to them. They don't realize it, but subconsciously they're being influenced by what they're seeing and hearing. Nobody can ignore this. A lot of experts have shown, that this has tremendous influence over children, scholastically, over relationships, in life in general. Terrible influences from TV and other such distractions. There's a lot of other distractions. And I've spoken a little bit about this in other lectures, how all of these distractions and all of these negative influences are competing with divinity, with spirituality. It's a competition, because if you give away your time, your hour of time, to see something, a show, you're taking away from something else. How many people evaluate which one is worth more? It becomes almost automatically, it becomes a ritual, it becomes a habit to just see the show. Oh, you can't miss it. And if they're not going to be around for some reason, they're going to a wedding, they have it recorded. They can't miss the show. All of this becomes much more difficult in our generation than in the past. Why our generation more than the past? Because the rabbis tell us in the Kabbalah that right before Mashiach comes, the generation of Mashiach, which is now, humanity will sink to the 50th level of tum'ah, of impurity. There was always impurity. 50th level is the lowest it could be. It's very difficult to get out of it. What's the 50th level of tum'ah? Heresy. To deny that there is a God. It's not to be secular. Throughout history, people have been less religious, more religious, secular. But at least they believed in God. You know what it is to deny it? To not want to have anything to do with it? To fight against it? That's the 50th level of Tumah. He's completely in a cage, and he doesn't even realize it. He doesn't want to come out of it either. He's happy the way he is. Imagine somebody drowning, or sinking, I should say, in a pond of in quicksand. You know what quicksand is? There are places next to swamps, next to certain rivers, where because of the combination of sand and water, if you go into it, it will be very, very difficult to come out of it. It's still possible to come out of it, but it's very hard. You move a little bit, it becomes very, very hard to continue to move. You see a rope, you see a branch. Don't you want to grab it? Don't you want to come out of this mud? People don't know that they're even in the mud. That's how impure this generation is. That's how much concealment there is, that they don't even know
that they're drowning.
That they're drowning, that they're sinking. It's incredible. They don't even know it. And therefore, the rabbis tell us in the Kabbalah that anyone who in this generation, at the very least, even if he's not a saint, but he believes that there is a God, a creator, he's a precious man. He's a precious soul. Just for that alone, because it's so difficult. Just because he believes, that is admirable. Just for that alone. What else makes it difficult? Besides that we're in the 50th level of impurity, the Zohar writes that in the year 1840, so now we're in the year 2016, right? So in the past 176 years, right? The Zohar writes this in the Hebrew year. The Hebrew calendar year 5600. The gates of wisdom, of knowledge will open up. Ever since then, there's been tremendous discoveries in science, in medicine, in every field that you can imagine. Up until then, the world was more or less the same. Some advancements, we had dynamite, we had the telescope, we had the printing press. We had a few things that came up. But all of a sudden, as of that time, give or take, we have the Industrial Revolution. You heard of Pasteur? I mean, he told us about pasteurizing, about the importance of eliminating things that we couldn't see that existed. All kinds of microbes, bacteria. They thought he was crazy when he suggested to change the towels where the women were giving birth. Many of them were dying. Women, went there to give birth, but they shared the same towels as others who were very sick. Until he pointed this out, many things were discovered. Just electricity. You know what electricity did? So the gates of wisdom have opened up. And man has been able to advance so much in technology. We've stepped on the moon. That would have been totally not believable had you suggested that 100 years ago. No, impossible. How did they do it? The gates of wisdom opened up, and all of a sudden, some scientists were inspired to discover how to make a telephone, how to make a light bulb, all kinds of things. They were inspired out of nowhere, just now. The gates of wisdom are going to open up before Mashiach comes. But I'm not going to explain why the gates opened up right now. That's a different topic that has to do with the final redemption. But what's interesting about this is that the Kabbalah explains that it will be so sad for this world if all that wisdom went just to the left and not to the right. If it went just towards science, just towards things that pertain or that relate to the physical world, instead of at least some of it going to the spiritual world. Because if you really think about it, with all that powerful technology, man can see God today more than in the past. We can see the cells, what's going on in a cell, a whole factory. We can see greater distances in space. Through physics and through biology, through all the scientific disciplines, we can see a lot and know a lot more than they knew in the past. Somehow, many of them don't get it. Some of them do. Some of them do realize that this is a very special world, designed for a purpose. It has meaning. And some of them refuse to acknowledge that. Prove it to me. I want evidence for that. But you have more evidence now than you had before. You have powerful microscopes today that can show you things that in the past they didn't have and they still believed in God. And now you have the means to see it up close. No, this is nature. I want real evidence. So what's going on? A lot of this dot, unfortunately, a lot of this knowledge has gone for good things. I'm not saying bad things, for good things, but only for the physical world. What about for man's spiritual improvement? Man has not necessarily become a better person, a holier individual. We've had World War I, World War II. Look at all the wars we have today, all the killing. The human being is still an animal. With all that technology, all that knowledge, we still have hunger in the world, we still have problems. Man is not focusing on the real important things. He wants just to improve the quality of life for himself, not necessarily for everyone. So you have all this knowledge not necessarily going towards the right things. So what does Hashem do? It wouldn't be fair if the home team had all the advantages. The Kabbalah teaches Zeh le'umat zeh. Everything in this world is fair. During the generation we had prophecy, we had powerful forces that were against this prophecy, witchcraft and the like, and we'll talk about that after the holiday. Incredible, powerful forces that competed with prophecy. You know what prophecy is? Direct message from Hashem. We don't have prophecy today. Ever since the destruction of the first Bet HaMikdash, the first temple, prophecy, nevuah ceased. So, what is our advantage now? What can we use to help? What can we use to guide us if we don't have prophecy? If you look back at the last 250 years, for some reason, actually a little bit more than 250 years, but especially the past 250 years, we have the revelation of the Kabbalah. Kabbalah was concealed too. Very few people knew about it. Mysticism, we knew a little bit. There's something called mysticism. But to really become knowledgeable in this area of Kabbalah, for some reason Hashem sent it down now. He revealed this knowledge to us now. Why? I need a counterforce. All this heresy. How are you going to maintain your sanity? How are you going to be able to focus properly on spirituality if all of this is going to surround you, all of this vanity, all of this immorality, all of this heresy? How are you going to be able to survive and not sink? So he sent us the Kabbalah, Chassidut, and the Torah was further elaborated on in various ways, including the oral law that was written down earlier in the Mishnah, in the Gemara, all of that to be able to give us the strength that we need to do battle with all this heresy. Even though, in reality, all along the mitzvot, the commandments, the Torah alone should have been enough, because the Torah trains us to be disciplined, to be devoted, to be consistent. We get that from fulfilling the commandments alone. So we could have had what we need. That's all we really, really need. But apparently in this generation, all of that is not enough. Look how many individuals are knowledgeable, observe the commandments, and still they're weak when it comes to spirituality. And you know why the Torah is not enough for many people today? Because today the battle is not anymore what it was in the past. That just the physical body will do battle with the neshama. Today the physical body has a friend, and it's called the intellect. Today the intellect, the da'at that we talked about before, has joined forces with the body. The da'at is against. The sechel, the mind, the logic, the common sense is against that which is spiritual. They're fighting against it. They don't want him in school. Oh no, you can't mix religion in school. We're only going to teach evolution. don't you want to be fair? Don't teach this, don't teach that. It's not fair to only teach this. You want to teach? Teach both. Be fair. No. Look at this. There's no fairness. The child has to discover it on his own, unless he has parents that are religious, that there's a God. How will the average young man or young woman discover this when the odds are against him? When the physical body is against him, plus now the intellect, what he's being taught, he has to go to a private school. What if he can't afford it? They're going to bombard him with heresy. No, this is not true scientifically. Therefore, we're not going to teach it. Then don't teach anything about the beginning of the world, how it started. That has nothing to do with science. That has to do with philosophy and religion. Keep it out of science. Science is about how this physical world works. Now how it began and when it began, it's not important. No. We're going to make it important. We're going to teach you. We're going to tell you what we want you to believe, how it's all started. Because this is heretical. It's against religion. It's against that which is divine. Why don't you just stay out of this? Or be fair, teach both? No. This is not proven. This we can prove, even though they can't. They say they could, but they really can't prove it. It's a theory. Why teach a theory? This is not science. Because this is a battle against anything that is spiritual. They don't realize it. They want to teach only that which is only that which is heresy. There's an incredible force out there that doesn't want divinity. And today, it's not just the physical body, it's the intellect. The mind is fighting against the average young man or woman, poor student. What are the odds that he's going to win? That he's going to be able to survive? You know how many people are influenced because of what they're taught? They're not given a chance to think on their own. So today you have the mind and the body joining forces, and that is why it's become so difficult. Okay, so now that we've explained more or less what is going on, what are we going to do about it? What can we do to do battle with this rebellion? We have to look at it as an addiction. What's an addiction? An addiction is exactly what we described before. An individual who doesn't want to listen, doesn't want to change. He's so stuck in the way he believes or in what he does that he doesn't want to. He's addicted to it, even though he may not admit it. He's addicted. So what do we do with addiction? Well, what you do with other addictions, whether it's alcohol or drugs, there's several steps that can be taken to help an individual who's addicted. The rabbis tell us, however, before any work can begin, before any help can be gotten, we need to remember the rule that David HaMelech tells us in Tehillim and Psalms. Sur merah va'aseh tov. You first have to let go of that which is evil, and then you can embark on doing that which is good. You can't do it at the same time. If you want to do that which is good, that which is right and positive, you have to let go of the bad habits. If there's a bad habit, you have to let go of it. You have to stop it. Are you going to be cured and healed right away? No. But at least let go of it. Let go of it. Acknowledge that this is no good. Let go of it. After that, we can help you. We can help you come out of it. That's called aseh tov, doing good. To build up the good in a person, it's possible, but he first has to let go. He has to be willing to let go of that which is bad. But what did we say before? That's more easier said than done. He's not going to let us. He's not going to admit it. He's not going to even think of going to a place to get help. So we have to overcome that. Once he's agreed, okay, so he's going to let go of his bad habits, and he's going to hopefully form good habits. But how do we get him to change his will, we said before? We have to change his will. We have to get him to agree. In theology, in study of religion, there's a term that you may come across sometimes. It's called the leap of faith. Leap. You know, the water is cold in the swimming pool, but you want to go for a swim, just jump in. If you hesitate, and you may be there all day because you're afraid of the cold water, you sometimes just have to take the jump. When you're building a house and you're spending a lot of money for the remodeling, you're not sure, you hesitate. There's another term that they use, you just have to bite the bullet. You may have heard that. If you really want something, you just have to bite the bullet and do it. Here, what it will take to bite the bullet, what it will take to jump into the cold water of the pool, is submissiveness. Le'achni'a et haratzon, it's called. One has to somehow, I didn't tell you yet how, somehow he has to surrender. He has to say, you know what, I don't know how this works, I don't know if it's true, I'm just going to surrender my will. I'm just going to give up myself. In other words, what I'm interested in all along. I'm just going to give it up. I'm going to surrender. Hachna'az, it's called in Hebrew, the surrendering of one's will, is the most important step a person can ever take. We're not there yet, but this is what it will take. For him to agree, for him to actually go, he's going to have to say, I surrender. I surrender my wishes, I surrender my interest, I give up myself, my inner self, and I agree to be told by others what to do. And if you know a little bit about Alcoholics Anonymous, and you read their 12 steps that they prescribe for people who are addicted, they talk about similar ideas there. Important ideas that have helped many. I'm not saying that they're going to help all, but they're definitely helpful for some, because a lot of work is needed to overcome an addiction. So one has to surrender. Once a person surrenders to a higher power, once he takes the leap in trying it out and realizing that he may gain from this after all, then he has a chance. So now we've come to the most difficult question of all. How do we get somebody to surrender? How do we get somebody to actually jump? Remember, we can't push him. You can't push him into the swimming pool, even though you really could. But he's going to come right out. What do we do? What's the most important tool? What is the key to get somebody to try? Anybody want to guess? This is really perhaps the most important question of the entire lecture. What's the key to get somebody to overcome all the barriers, hesitations, fears that he may have? It's called in Hebrew dugma ishit. I believe that the best tool and the most powerful key that can open up any lock is by example. Get someone who went through the same thing, the same struggles, the same addiction. He was an atheist, and he became more spiritual. Get him to talk to him. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. I really believe that this is perhaps the most powerful key. There may be other keys, there may be other ways to do it. I mean, some people are more flexible than others. But I'm talking about a real tough cookie. Somebody who's really stubborn, resisting everything, all the pressures, doesn't want to hear about it. Someone who has gone through it, someone just like him, somebody that has had similar life experiences as him, and he tells them, listen, take it from me. I've done it. I believe the exact same way you did. And it's wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't even know what you're losing. Take it from me. So it's not a rabbi speaking to him. It's not a preacher. It's not a lecturer. It's somebody, perhaps a very close friend, that will help too. It's not even a father, mother, or brother, because they're not necessarily going to be too influential either. It's somebody that went through it and says, take it from me. And you will see, after you try for a while, you will see the difference. This process of becoming more spiritual is not a short process. It's actually a lengthy process. It takes time. And I remember reading somewhere that when you come to these places where they help you recover from addictions, they tell you that the elevator to recovery is not working. Take the 12 steps. There are no shortcuts here. We would love to take an elevator and just get up there. But to become spiritually elevated, to become a better person, a better husband, just a more spiritual individual, it takes work. It doesn't happen overnight. It all happens in gradual steps. The tools that we will need are discussed in the Kabbalah. The tools that a Jew or a non-Jew can help, can use in this process of becoming more spiritual are called hitbodedut and hitbodinut. Meditation and introspection. In other words, once we got this individual to let go of his bad habits, he's changing his will, he's surrendering, he's accepting to go and to listen and to hear a different worldview. He's willing to put on the glasses. They have to first see what's his prescription, right? We can't just put glasses right away. But at least he's willing to go and get checked out. What are the tools? What are the tools that we're going to give him that will help him focus? That will help him conquer that evil inclination, get out of the cage, free himself, and become more spiritual? The Kabbalah teaches hitbonenut and hitbodedut. Introspection and meditation. Hitbonenut is meditation, and hitbodedut is introspection. Take some time off during the day or once a week to be by yourself in a quiet area where no one will disturb you, no phone calls, no emails, no nothing. And just begin to think. That's called hitbodedut. Be by yourself. Speak to God. He listens. And by the way, God knows every language, so you can say it in your own words. It doesn't have to be from a prayer book. Talk your heart out. Healthy. Very, very healthy. That's called hitbodedut. Hitbonenut is a form of meditation. And we don't have the time to go into all the forms of meditation, but there's a whole lecture about that I gave years ago when we covered the fundamentals of the Kabbalah. One of the lectures was about meditation, how the Kabbalah has different kinds of meditation than those that are practiced in the East, in Asia.
Are they online?
Yes. So meditation is a little bit more complex because it involves focusing, thinking, or there's a meditation using something called a mantra, where one says certain things and repeats them several times. Meditation is powerful because it allows, together with the hitbodedut, together with the introspection, to relax, to release some of the pressure. And guess what will happen when all that pressure is gone? The mind becomes cleaned. Remember we talked about the confused mind, the constipated mind, right? The dirty mind. Clean it up. How? Well, hitbodedut and hitbonenut, meditation and introspection. This has to be taught. A person may not know how to do it on his own. But why does it help? Why do these things help? Or how do they help? So the Kabbalah teaches the following important concepts. When we are born, we receive what's called an or pnimi, an internal light. The neshama actually gives us that light from Hashem. That or pnimi is necessary because it is what guides us. It's like a GPS. It enlightens us. It tells us right from wrong if we listen to it. In other words, because it's not a light that you see, it's the intellect. It's a light in the form of intellect. Or pnimi, an internal light. Well, everybody has an internal light, but it's not enough. So the Kabbalah teaches there's also something called or mekif. There's an outside light that surrounds the individual from the outside. But it doesn't penetrate, it's just on the outside. That is really a light of potential for growth, for connecting to Hashem. You want to connect to Him? You need to be not just enlightened and inspired, you need to be driven. You need to have a strong desire to get out of this physical jail and emphasize that which is spiritual so you can tap onto this light, so the light can penetrate. Because otherwise it will stay on the outside. All human beings have potential that is unused. You know how much of the brain is unused? And this is more powerful than the brain. This is a light, a powerful light that will enable him to connect, to be divinely inspired, to have prophetic visions. This is a powerful light. It's called Or Mekif, but it's sitting on the outside. What happens when one has this Or Mekif enter his mind? What does it do to him? So the Kabbalah teaches there's something called Mukhin de Gadlut and Mukhin de Katnut. In English, it's called expanded and constricted consciousness. When our consciousness is constricted, we feel a little bit depressed, sad, unsure, confused. and perhaps not even interested in doing that which is good for us. It's called mochin de katnut. Mochin means in Aramaic the brains, the intellect. It's small, it's constricted, it's not its full potential. Then there's mochin de gadlut, expanded consciousness. All of a sudden our consciousness becomes so expanded, we realize, wow, there's a whole world out there that I didn't see. Imagine somebody going down scuba diving. Oh, wow, I never knew that these species, these fish, these beautiful colors exist. The coral reefs, look at all that. Yeah, from the outside you can't see, you have to go down. Expansive consciousness through the Or Mekif that is potentially there for us to use if we allow it to come in. If we show that we have an interest in connecting to it, and we do what it takes to connect to it. You can't just say, I want it. No. And you do what it takes to connect with it. Then you will see the benefits from it. Sometimes it is possible for an individual to become inspired, enlightened through music. We've spoken a little bit about that. Music is also something that stimulates the soul. Music is therefore also something good music. And I'm going to recommend for those of you who really want an easier tool that can go a long way in helping to become more spiritual. It's called saying Tehillim, reading from the Psalms every single day, even just a chapter, even though just a portion of it. Try to finish it in 1 month. I'm going to talk about especially those who say it and understand the words. Powerful stuff, I'm telling you, guarantee, powerful, inspiring, motivating. If you don't know the Hebrew, read it in any language that you can, but pay attention to the words. This is a powerful book. We have a tradition that it's powerful. It's not just that I'm telling you it is. It works in all kinds of ways. We need any source of strength that we can get to be able to free ourselves from this cage, the physical cage, to be the boss, to be independent, and to not be a prisoner, to not even know that we're in prison. We want to wear the glasses and be able to look around and enjoy all that there is in this world. It's a beautiful world. But people just miss out. When one has elevated himself to very great heights, spirituality, his prayer will be completely different. Ad kedei ishtapchut hanefesh. He will feel as though he wants to pour out his whole soul. Everything he does will be different. He will be a different human being. He will feel differently. But you know what's the ultimate proof that he's been elevated? The ultimate proof is not necessarily how he prays. The rabbis in the Kabbalah tell us the ultimate proof that one has really released himself from this cage is when to him an insult and words of praise are exactly the same thing. An insult, most people don't like insults. Most people are upset at an insult. Most people even react to an insult. When the individual has reached the level where an insult to him is the same as words of praise, as a compliment, he has this equanimity, as it's called, about these kinds of things. He's very, very way on top. He's become much more spiritual than he is physical. That is proof that he has released himself from this cage. I just want to finish that Judaism has always taught the Jew how to live in this physical world and have them both, physical, to enjoy it, and the spiritual. Judaism demonstrates, teaches, shows us how you can actually have both. There have been various religions, cultures that have moved away from that which is physical, complete abstinence, as I've already discussed in the past. They moved all the way to the extreme, or the other extreme, complete physical.
Like a Sufi.
Yeah, like a Sufi, exactly. So you have religions and cultures or philosophies that have moved away completely to either one of the two extremes. Judaism teaches about balance. God put us into a physical body. He wants us to enjoy this world, the world that He created. He wants us to have a normal life, but He also wants us to be spiritual at the same time. It is possible to have both. How do you do that? You elevate that which is physical. Kedoshim to you, the Torah tells us, be holy unto me. because I'm holy. You want to be like me, you want to connect to me, then you have to be holy. How are you going to be holy? You elevate, right? You don't live to eat, you eat to live. You understand exactly what you're doing, and you do it with the right measure. You don't overdo, you don't exaggerate, you don't give it more importance. It's physical after all. It shouldn't be more important. Live a balanced life. Judaism teaches us how to maintain a balance. And obviously, if one maintains this balance in the right way, he will succeed, B'ezrat Hashem, in crossing over the bridge from a physical world to a spiritual one. Amen.